Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Hump Day in a Riv after a Clowncil meeting, I guess, and so we're we're off to the races again. Things are swirling around, and all kinds of rumors are going. And Joe Feitelberg passed away. I guess you told me this morning.
Yes, he passed away at 89 years old.
Yeah, he
His
was
wake
a
will be Sunday at the William Sullivan Funeral Home on Winter Street, and his funeral will be held from Holy Name Parish on Hanover Street on Monday.
he was a he was a very influential businessman in his community for a very long time. He was a good guy. I was friendly with him. Actually, played tennis with him a lot, and I was on the Fall River Regional Task Force with him, which was a task force made up by Carlton Viveris of uh, businessmen and they put the union people on. So I got on and got to know him, and we became very good friends. He was a credit to the city. It's a loss. He moved out. He used to live up near Charlton Memorial in that English Tudor mansion there, and I think he moved to Connecticut. I don't know where he ended up, but
He initially moved to Westport with his wife Sheila, and he bought a house in Boston, a apartment or a house in Boston. He sold the property off of I think it was Narrows Road or something in Westport, and lived in Boston for a while. Then he went and I guess he came back here to go into hospice in Lincoln, Rhode Island, where he passed away.
that's too bad. I know he was looking at a house in Connecticut because I remember when he put his house up for sale after he retired, and they had a realtor from Connecticut. I guess he was looking at Connecticut, and I remember that because those were the good old days when the cost of living in Fall River matched the income of the people in Fall River. So I remember he put that spectacularly large and amazing English Tudor mansion. He had it on the market for $500,000, which was a lot of money in those days in Fall River. And when the realtor came up from Connecticut and looked at that house, he said, $500,000. He said, I could get you $5 million for this in Connecticut. But then again, there's capitalism at work. You charge what the market will bear, but no longer that doesn't happen anymore. Now we're going to pay the same price as people in Newton who are making 165,000 when we're making 30, and they expect you to pay the rents, but they don't care because we're more interested in trolley cars and water taxis like Macau and Hong Kong to the bar rooms. This is the problem. This is why we have to get rid of all these politicians, all of them. So, but Joe was he'll be sorely missed. His wake is on Saturday. I'm
Sunday.
gonna Sunday.
Yes.
Okay,
Sunday
that's right.
evening.
He's Sunday evening. Okay,
Yes.
I will probably go to that wake. It will be it will be an extremely well attended wake because he was, as I said, he was a very well known and influential businessman and a good guy.
And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of politicians making the
Oh
trip.
yeah, that's going to be the only disgusting thing about going. And I'm bringing my Pepto Bismol with me.
Bring that bottle, that's for sure. While we're speaking about rumors and politics, yesterday on Fall River Raw, a comment was made by Will Flanagan that Carlos Souza has officially announced to run his run for mayor. Carlos Souza hasn't made any official announcements. I know he's been discussing it. I know that he's been considering it, but he's also considering other options. His family hasn't even been consulted on this matter on what's going to happen. So let's not beat the horse before it's out of the barn, and let's not start rumors that may or may not be true. Let's be sure that we have accurate information directly from the horse's ass. Um,
Well, no, you're right. But listen, I hope he does, and I hope a lot of other people run for everything. I hope that
exactly.
all of these people who ran for council last time get their ass in gear and don't wait till a couple of months before the election just to throw their name in the hat, that actually begin political campaigns talking about issues, talking about this insanity of spending that we're going through here, and like this tripling of your water rates, taxes increases, overrides, and everything, while we're spending money like drunken sailors. The city hasn't stopped. The CFO says we can't borrow any money because nobody will give us any money because we don't have any money, but we're going to take all your money, which is bullshit. While I'm on it, it's a great segue. I got a couple of things to tell everybody to inflame everybody. I want to see all those people run again and more people on top.
Oh yeah,
Because
definitely. I want to see more people on top. And
we have
you
to
know,
we have to change them like diapers. Okay,
Yeah.
this is a couple of the things I got. What our government from the top down. We're going from the top down. What they're spending it on. Joe Biden has earmarked money. If you're not sitting down, sit down. You may fall down when you hear this one. He has earmarked your tax dollars while we have $700,000. Oh yeah, we're going to get to that, Jeffrey. Don't worry. That is on the agenda. $700,000 for a skateboard park, while we got two that are in disrepair and we can't afford to fix them. $700,000, and we'll get into that. While we got things we can actually use it on, but there you go with the wokey feel-good Laura. Oh, everything for the kids, while their parents can't pay their freaking rent. Well, they can't afford to buy them clothes. Let's build a skate park and cut a ribbon and then let it fall into disrepair like the other two. They're bullshit. We'll get back to that. But here we go. Fasten your seatbelts. Joe Biden and the woke virtue signaling administration. He has earmarked federal money, our tax dollars, for I said plant, like plants, music, and pet therapy for illegals. That's what I said. Plant, music, and pet therapy for illegals. The people who came here from a country where they had absolutely nothing and they were living in a hut, if they had a hut, with a dirt floor, and they're getting culturally appropriate meals, debit cards, free rent, fast track into everything in healthcare. Now they're going to get plant, music, and pet therapy while we got people sleeping all over the streets. Veterans that can't get housing. You think there's something wrong here with these people? You really think there's something wrong with these people? Yeah, pet therapy, yeah, for legal people. For anybody that's legal. Now we're going to go down again to our favorites, one of our favorite states besides this. We're number 2, behind Cali. San Francisco. Now we talked about the 20 billion that they spent on the homeless that they don't know where it is. That figure has now been changed to 24 billion that they can't account for. But now, another great idea from San Francisco to how to help the homeless. Don't spend a 24 billion on getting them treatment, getting them housing. No. San Francisco has now got a alcohol and vodka therapy plan for homeless. They're opening up a bar because they have to say they don't want them distressed because they can't get alcohol. And if they get them in there, they get 2 shots of vodka a day, and they figure once they get them in there, they're going to stay. That'll be the day. They're going to take their 2 shots and walk right out the door. This is your government at work, people. Keep these people in. Keep Biden in. Keep these Democrats in. And in this city, keep this council, except for Michelle Dion, in there and let them blow $700,000 on a skateboard park. And Fall River, that was my last item. $700,000 on a skateboard park. The people get that's caring about the kids. You're going to give them a skateboard park while their parents can't afford to buy them clothes or feed them. Well, the last time I checked, we had what? Over 70% of the children in school qualified for the meals. It must be up to 80 now. I mean, get a grip, people. This is knuck and futs, okay? It's nuts. We're building parks and taking out benches and shit while we got people laying in the streets, and we're displacing homeless. Where are they going to go? Oh, we're going to put them in there for a month or something. They're not going to disappear. They need to be helped permanently. And we're sending billions to pet therapy, plant therapy, more $60 billion to Ukraine, and Americans are dying in the streets. Veterans can't get homes. What the hell is wrong with the people in this country? How can anybody elect these nitwits? With that, CJ, back to you.
Did you see what Rhode Island reported on about what happened when Providence removed the homeless encampments? They moved. Guess where they moved to? A church land. They moved right in front of a church. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. They moved right onto the land in front of a church, which is private property.
Maybe they were thinking about the old medieval days. Remember when the churches were the sanctuaries?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, when the criminals used to run into the church for sanctuary.
Right.
But I mean, this is a travesty, CJ. You know, we're trying to give a little levity to this issue, but I mean, think about this. In the United States of America, we have children hungry, people losing their homes, while we send trillions, not billions, because if you add it all up, trillions of dollars all over the world and to the illegals that are in this country, not the legals. The rest of the whiskey. Yeah, that's right. You're right. They can't buy clothes. They can't afford their rent. I said 40% of the population is skipping a meal every day because they can't afford to pay their rent. And this is what we do. Here we go. You know, skateboard parks and take the benches away and level the park for $250,000 for one of the rich guys. That's chump change for that rich guy. If he really wanted the benches, just give him permission. Tell him, why don't you donate that? Rehab that park. We'll name it after you. How about that idea, CJ? That sounds like a good idea.
That would be wonderful.
See, be a philanthropist. I think the man
who the park's named after would be a little upset.
Yeah, I mean, that would not even be 0.001% of all the money they've saved in tips with their businesses in the city of Fall River.
And it's a tax write-off.
That's right, and it's a tax write-off. And so look at the great philanthropists. But that's the thing about, isn't it amazing about rich people? With us, we got to just keep giving them money that we don't have, and those people get all the tax breaks, they get all the money, and they never spend a dime.
Right.
They tell a city, do this for me, give me a TIF, take those benches away, it's interfering with my business, pick up my trash even though it's illegal. Let the peons pay the water bills, let them increase their taxes, give them another 2.5 override. Let them eat cake. As a matter of fact, screw it. Let them eat devil dogs.
Devil dogs. That way you can choke on them while you're at it. It's just amazing because we see this happening a lot, okay? And no matter how much we talk about it, we can't get anything changed. And I'm not just talking about you and I, Chip. I mean, the public, the people. They talk about it and they want it stopped. People have been talking about the ZBA and waiving the parking requirements for so long, and the ZBA still waives parking requirements. Yet businesses are saying they have to close their doors because there's no available parking. That's the ZBA's fault. That's not the people's fault. That's the ZBA's fault. And we said before this came out, after the first passing of the waiver of parking requirements, we said this is going to destroy the neighborhoods. And what happened? It's destroying the neighborhoods. Makes for an interesting time when the people are saying don't and they do anyhow. And now I'm going to change the subject. City Clowncil meeting. And our chief financial screw up. Okay? She's sitting there and they're asking them what the overtime is, because there's 2 overtime lines in the quarterly budget for the elections office. Now, I've spoken with somebody who used to work in elections 19 hours a week. This way they could keep her from getting benefits. And she said that there was only 3 people who worked in that office, and they got everything done. Everything. The census, the registrations, even before an election, 3 people, they would get everything done. The only time they had more people, they were temporary people, they were the people who worked the polls. That was it. Now, Ryan has 6 or 7 people working in his office, and they can't get the work done. 3 people used to do it. Why? Because Liz, who was the elections commission chair, worked. She didn't just sit around in her office doing nothing, having conversations, going to the radio station. She actually did work. She would file some of the census. She would help with the registrations. She would work on the records to make sure they were accurate and up to date. Is Ryan doing that? If he has 7 people doing all this work and they have to do it in overtime, there's a problem. There's a serious problem. And you got to have 2 line items for overtime. Somebody brought something to my attention over the weekend about that. And after during the city council meeting, my phone started ringing and they said, why don't you check and see if Ryan's getting any overtime? Because he's a salaried employee. He shouldn't be getting paid for overtime. I guess I'm going to have to take a peek at that. Chip, you're more of an expert in labor. So should somebody who's being salaried be paid overtime?
No, no, no. It's a fine. I mean, like with contract workers, management's management. You know as well as I do. If you're if you're a management employee and you negotiate your own contract, you have benefit levels, but normally there's no overtime ever attached to supervisory employees because they work and they have a pretty good salary. So the salary is normally good. But I'm glad you brought that up because look, you and I have been involved with this city and with elections and with things for a very, very long time. And we remember when Liz Camara was there. She's no relation, by the way. I don't have, basically, with the exception of my son and my daughter, none of my relatives are named Camara. I was the only child, and my father had sisters, and they all their children and all my relatives have they have their married names. So I'm not related to any other Camara except the ones in my immediate family, and but she did a good job. And they all did. And like I said, they did it with 3 people. And of course, around election time, they needed some temporary help. But then again, this is the Coogan This is the Coogan administration. Came from the school department where the motto is hire 17 people to do the work of one and then pay them more than the 3 people who were doing 6 times the work and then give them overtime. And then you wonder why we got no money and he's asking for a 2.5 override. And he's looking for more money and we're out of money. And the other yo-yo's going, I don't understand this. Well, I don't understand it either. I told you the last time I walked in here to turn in my voter registration thing and I looked, I've never seen that many people in that office in my life.
I know.
It's like, what are they doing? This is not an election. What are they doing? It's not an election. What are 7 people doing at office in between elections? Is there that much work? I don't think so. We had an office with 3 people in it that handled everything seamlessly. We never had a problem. But this is the Coogan method. But this is what he brought from the school department. The obscene patronage that has been in a school department for decades, as soon as they got ed reform and autonomy. He had a reorganization. What was that reorganization all about? Creating more supervisors and pay raises. It wasn't about reorganizing to streamline things and make it more cost effective for the taxpayer. It was like, screw you. You have to give us money. And we're going to make it. And what did he do? He took that department, created 4 supervisors where there used to be 1, all well paying. We got 6 superintendents. He brought that over there because he's like Biden. They're buying votes. I'll give everybody a job. You got a nephew that needs a job? Don't worry about it. We'll get him a job. 7 people. The department head doesn't do anything now. I'll tell you what, Liz Camara, her predecessors, they were the head of the board of elections, but I'll tell you what, they worked. She worked, and I see Liz at our retirees meetings every month. She comes to the meetings religiously. She did a good job. But this is why, people, but you know what the problem is? You got to expect this from people like Coogan. These people live on a very, very simple formula. I support politicians, and if they get in, I'm getting taken care of. And if they don't, I'm screwed until I can find an election where I can back the right horse. And then I never have to work again. I just show up, stick my hands in my pockets, and get paid. And everybody in my family might get a job in the interim. That's the way they operate. So don't be surprised. You can be appalled. You can be disgusted. But you have to be appalled and disgusted enough to get your ass to the polls. And I'm now speaking rhetorically to our viewers, because you guys watch, you guys know, it's the other people. So start a phone tree. We're talking about elections. Call 5 of your friends. Talk to them. Explain to them. We said follow the money. Listen to the facts. We give you facts on this show. Tell the people what they're doing. Piss them off. Get them pissed off enough to go and vote. We can't fix this without people going to the polls. We can't have 14 or 15,000 people in a city of over 90,000 controlling the damn city. This is what happens. And with that, CJ, back to you.
That phone call was from a viewer, which I was short with them because they know we're on the air. But they wanted to be sure people knew that Robin Murphy had been paroled. So for those of you who didn't know, Robin Murphy has been paroled. She is entering a rehab house somewhere in the state. We don't know if it's in Fall River or around Fall River. So we shall see. Robin Murphy is the alleged satanic murderer. She's been convicted of murder, but her story has changed so often, nobody knows what to believe. So let's just put that out there. I didn't want to give her any
And I
airtime.
understand, CJ, but I'm glad you explained it because some of our viewers, that name was like, they might have thought it was Robin Hood's illegitimate daughter or something like that because they don't remember the Carl Drew and satanic issues. Although there was a documentary on what was it, ESPN?
Fall River
Yeah,
and Mortal Remains
Mortal.
is
Yeah,
the book
the book. Yeah, but there was a documentary on there. Remember
called
that?
Fall River.
Yeah. What was that on ESPN or what was it?
No, that was on MGM.
MGM, okay. I knew it was on one of those other channels, but yeah, there was a documentary on it, but it happened a very, very long time ago, and a lot of our viewers may not, actually, it may not have rung a bell. I'm glad you didn't. Like you say, we don't need to give him more press. As far as I'm concerned, they should never let people like that out, because if you read about what they did, it's horrible.
Well, Carl Drew has a life sentence with no chance of parole. And now Robin Murphy's saying that he didn't do it. So, the story changes so often we don't know what to believe. So I'm telling you now. But back to the elections office. We've been complaining about the elections office for a while. We talked about $6,000 desks. You wonder why we don't have money. This is why. Yeah, this is only one department. And for the chief financial screwball to turn around and say, I don't know. I don't know what it's about. I don't know what it's for. And then cost overruns in the water department. Oh, you got to love this one. Cost overruns in the water department. She couldn't answer that either. So they had to call Paul Ferlin down, who turned around and said they're encumbrances from 2023. So they got to pay the bills from 2023 and 2024. That's why it comes before the city council. It was an encumbrance. Normally, it's an electric bill or a gas bill. No, this is chemicals. They couldn't predict that their chemical bill was going to be higher. They did. That's all they talked about. That was the reason for the increases last year. That's the reason for the increases this year.
Look, they should all be in jail, CJ. I
It's
told you the
unbelievable.
story of how many years ago that we couldn't get a tire on the fire scene
Yeah, I remember that story.
because I believe that fire was on Charles Street down the South End. And I think that may have been the night the house blew up when we were fighting that fire on a corner at Tuttle and Charles. But we got a flat tire, and then the mechanic came over and said, Chief, we can't get the tire on. It's going to take a while. I said, what do you mean it's going to take a while? He says, yeah. He said, no tire company in Fall River sell us the tires because we haven't paid our bills. I got to go to Brockton to pick up the tire. So here you go. You give them money for chemicals, they don't buy chemicals. Is there going to be an investigation why it wasn't paid? No, they're going to come back and they're going to give them the money.
And they did last night.
And exactly. And without a damn peep, without somebody saying, listen, this guy, look, if you can't run your department and you're owing bills from 2 years ago on stuff that's a routine part of if it's not unexpected, as they say in Newton, that they want to think, see, they want to make this Newton, but you can't make it Newton, because in Newton, if you did that, you wouldn't be a department head anymore. Because you went back in front of the council and said, I need money for chemicals, and they said, we gave you money for chemicals, and we gave you an increase in the rate. You didn't buy the chemicals? No, good, you're fired. Goodbye. You don't get any money, except the money you said, unless it's an unexpected thing. This is what happens in Fall River all the time. The CFO doesn't know anything. They got to call the department heads. Why do we need a CFO? We got department heads running their departments. What the hell? Well, that was another job we should have never had. The city administrator should be enough. I opposed that CFO from the beginning. We don't need a financial officer. We got department heads in every single department in the city of Fall River, and they're responsible for their money. And the city council and the city administrator, if there was a question, just used to call, say, speak to the department head. You remember it. I remember it. How many times did Frank Manning get yanked in front of the council to explain the old DPW stuff, right?
Yeah.
This is all extra pays, extra money for political hacks. We got so much freaking supervision, we're over-supervised and underworked. Nobody does anything. They got all these supervisors. You got a CFO. Now you're gonna have a fight. They're gonna hire that one from New Bedford to help her. You had Aya Capone. You got all these people, and nobody knows where anything is. And then when you get the guy up, he goes, "Oh yeah." I mean, look at this place. It's an absolute disaster. They found a building at DCM inside the building, a prefab building. How can you lose a building? How can you forget you have a building? Not a screw, not a nut, not a bolt, a building. You forgot? You don't pay bills for chemicals when you have to chemically treat the water? From 23? This is absurd, people. This is absurd. I mean, it's just, and the council should be held accountable too. They are our fiduciaries. They just give them the money.
I know.
And turn around and say, shut up, pay 3 times your water bill, approve a 2.5 override, and just keep giving us money while we just don't do anything to make sure that your money is being well spent. With that, CJ, back.
Well, about that building. Remember, they bought the building. I don't know if it was in New Hampshire or Vermont, or they bought it from somewhere up north, brought it back to Fall River, put it in a building, forgot about it, and then when they found it, they found out that the pieces all weren't there, and they couldn't put it together. So we buy defective equipment too. Wonderful things we do. So just remember that. And like you said, it wasn't a screw, it wasn't a nut. It was a nut who bought it.
And just remember the time they found, you're talking, building's bad enough, look, because it's big. You should be able to find the building and know it's there.
Exactly.
I mean, probably nobody went in the building that the building was in for 5 years. And they wonder why there's no maintenance on buildings. Nobody walked in. You can't walk in a building and see another building laying on the floor and not know it's there. I'm sorry. But the best one was the time they found 25. 25. That's the number that comes after 24 and is right before 26. That's a pretty high number. 25 accounts that had been dormant. Oh, I'm sorry. I revised that. It was 5 accounts. It was 25 years they were dormant. How can you have 5 bank accounts in a city with a CFO and a city administrator, a financial team, an auditing office, a treasurer's office, and have 5 accounts with no action, with money in them for 25 years? 25 years! Without even knowing they existed. They forgot them. I wish I had 25 bank accounts that I forgot. I wish I had that much money. That's why when we brought down Ernst & Young, the auditor said, I have never seen such a disaster as this city. And this guy audited things throughout the country. He had just got done with $1 trillion audit of the state of Tennessee. And he walked in Fall River and his head exploded. He went, I've never seen anything like this. And it's true. I mean, you look at the stuff that's happened in the city. If you wrote that in a book, they'd say, put it on a fiction shelf.
I know.
Because that's how bad it is here.
Now, didn't the judge or the arbitrator say that it's obvious that the records?
Yeah, he started his comment when he made the award is that it is without doubt that the city of Fall River's books were in a total state of disarray. But the irony of that was 1991, the first one. And then we caught him again in 08 and 16. We catch him. If you look at the books, you're going to find stuff. Because nobody, like I said, that auditor that came up just this year said, we don't know what we're doing. We put numbers together. This isn't really a forensic audit. It's not really an audit anyway. Because they know, if you look hard enough, you're going to find a lot of stuff to put them in jail. That was 91. And at the end of that audit, you know how they got out of it? They said in 91, and I got it. And if anybody wants to bet, bet me, because I'll go right up to Neil Rossman's office and get the depositions and the arbitrator's award. At the end of that arbitration, the city got out of it, but they had to pay us interest and all the money. But you know how they got out of it? They said, oh, we're sorry, this will never happen again. We're going to fix our books. Not 2024, people. 91 was a while ago. Books still aren't fixed. Still doing the same thing. You can pull that. We got 8 volumes of court stenographer testimony recorded at Neil Rossman's office. Every single word that was said, and the arbitrator's award to go along with it. They don't fix anything. They just keep kicking a can down the road, taking more money out of your pocket and destroying this city. It is just, that's why people, when you talk about, oh, people are going to come to it. People, we're the laughing stock of this state. And it's because of this. And it's because people don't get pissed off enough to get these people out. Listen, put in new councilors every term. If they won't impose term limits, it's up to us to impose the term limits. It's that
Agreed. Agreed. Now, you had brought up that nobody was asking questions about the chemicals and whatnot. Linda Pereira was digging. She was digging. That's why it came up. And what was very interesting was Linda then turned around and said, these quarterly reports, I know I fought for these, but is this too much work? The department heads are complaining that when you do this, they don't have the time to do their regular work that's necessary. They've got to focus on getting this done. And Bridget, the chief financial screw-up, turned around and said, oh no, that job falls on the auditor. The auditor and myself, we do this. How can you do it if you don't know what you're talking about? How can you do it if you don't know what you're explaining? And the auditor, we just recently got an auditor. Who was doing the work before we got an auditor? We didn't have one. Then we have one that, is not going to be overworked. I don't know. Seems to me that somebody else needs to be hired for this.
You realize what an insult to the intelligence these people give this propaganda and people. This is why I say watch these meetings, watch the show, educate yourself. When a department head said it's too much work for him to tell you how much money he spent, he's not doing his job. You don't even need an auditor. You got a secretary. You got a billing. You got a bill from your department. You got to keep track of the bills. So you mean to tell me that if you pay for chemicals at the end of every week, you can't take all the money you spent on everything you spent and record the data, and then you punch your computer at the end? Don't tell me that bullshit. I did an ability to pay study on this city with a hand calculator. Don't give me that shit. Those numbers, you don't know what you spent. That's the problem.
Exactly.
These people are full of shit. It's too hard. Oh, and again, how much are you paying? It's too hard. Everything's too hard. It's too hard to know how much you spent on chemicals. I know how much I spent. If I go to the damn supermarket tonight and spend $120 on groceries, when I come home, they ask me at the end of the month how much I spent on groceries. I'm going to have that $120 recorded because I know how much I spent on groceries. You're going to tell me they don't know how much they charge, how much they pay? They got to make a payroll. It's harder to make a payroll than it is to figure out, well, you buy stuff, you get an invoice with it, don't you?
That's right.
Last time I checked, you get a bill. I mean, Jesus, they make this like it's nuclear physics. This is such an insult to people's intelligence. It's incredible. It's incredible the shit that they shovel over there, and then in the next breath they say, give me $700,000 for a skateboard park. Oh, right. By the way, the two we got, we don't have enough money to fix them, and again, they're in disrepair. So let's build a third one that cut a ribbon, get the photo op, and let it turn to shit like the other two. And then
Are you ready?
Pay again.
Are you ready for where that $700,000 is coming from?
ARPA money.
Yep, ARPA money. ARPA money. We couldn't do anything better with ARPA. We could use ARPA money somewhere else. Okay? We heard this in the New Bedford Retirement Board meeting. The waste of the retirement of the opera money. He knew that it couldn't be used for retirements, but he was saying you've wasted it everywhere else. $1.5 million to somebody to develop a property because it's economic development. How is it economic development? Because it brings the city more taxes. Now, Bridget turned around and said yesterday that our revenue is up so far this quarter because, you ready for this? Because of excise taxes. Excise taxes. The revenue's up because of excise taxes. Rhode Island just did away with their excise taxes. What is Massachusetts doing wrong that Rhode Island's doing right? I think Massachusetts needs to get rid of its excise taxes. I think it's time.
And you know why that happened, CJ? Because in Rhode
People
Island,
voted.
the people got pissed off.
That's right.
They're saying this is bullshit, and they got rid of it. Well, because they're not going to get rid of it. You know what? You know what was going on in Bridget's brain when she talked about revenue up? It was like a slot machine with the cherries spinning around in her eyeballs. She's saying, "Oh, I can't wait till next year where we're going to get 3 times as much."
Right. Because
From
they
you
want
to
to pass.
people.
They want to pass a law that allows them to increase the excise tax by
Exactly.
25%.
And that's all because all they know how to do is tax. That's what they do. It's like, okay, we don't care. We got no money, but we're going to still charge you money. We're not going to control our spending. $700,000 on this. Like I said, but it's well, I'm using I'm rhetorical. It's our fault as a population.
Yes, it is.
We do not get to the polls. You cannot change anything. Like Theodore Roosevelt said, the great Roman Empire collapsed when the Roman citizens stopped voting. And
Right.
they allowed the politicians to take over the government. Because this is what happens. Just look at what happens in big government states. Look at them all. California, hundreds of billions of dollars missing. Nobody can account for it. People laying in the streets. New York State, Massachusetts, we're blowing money on every kind of crap with the illegals. But you go to the red states where there's smaller government and they're more conservative economically, you don't have these problems. There's virtually no taxes in those states. You can look at the red states, why people are moving there. South Dakota, North Dakota, Tennessee.
I saw a story today on NBC, I believe, where states like West Virginia, Midwestern states, okay, are offering money to people to move into their cities and towns because they want to build up their tax base. So it's worth the investment to bring them there. Plus, it's cheaper for the people to live there. One family which took them up on the offer, and I believe they got paid $10,000 to agree to live in the state for 2 years, said that their food bill was dramatically less than it was back home, back where they came from. And when their parents came out and saw them and saw what they were spending and what it cost them to buy a house, they turned around and they moved there. Now, the funny thing about that is the property values are starting to go up now. And the reporter asked the governor, don't you think that with the property values going up, people are going to get upset? And he says, no, because that means their property's worth more money. He says, granted, the taxes go up. He says, but that increases the tax base. And the more we increase the tax base, the better off the communities will be. Another one who believes in taxation. But it's a fact. If you have a stable tax base, and it should be stable on the commercial side. It should be stabilized on the commercial side, in my opinion. But if you got a stable tax base, you should have a stable city, and you should have a stable budget.
Yeah, and the other thing is, though, CJ, economically, if you know anything about guys like Burgum up in North Dakota, who was a millionaire businessman, took over running like a business, and they got very extremely low taxes. Even
right.
The taxes do not go up a lot if they go up at all, because as you expand the tax base and you keep control of your government,
That's the
You
trick.
actually don't have to increase your tax rates. You can even lower them.
That's the
Like in
trick.
South Dakota, no taxes. Why? Because that state has got tons of job opportunities. People are moving in by the droves in Tennessee. These low tax states, they sell more houses. The values of the house goes up. Yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more for the house, but the interest rates are down. But your tax rates are not going to go up like they do over here. Over here, every time your houses go up, your taxes go up, and they spend more money because
Right.
it's the combination of those two factors that if you get more people giving you money, but you control your spending, obviously there's always going to be some incremental spending. But when you're getting more money in than your cost is, you can maintain a very, very comfortable tax structure.
Exactly.
But that comes with what? A swear word. Fiduciary responsibility by politicians. And
There you go, saying that F word again.
and when you live in these pathetic blue states, all they know how to do is create more jobs for their friends. And like I said, just look at the list: plant music and pet therapy for illegals, vodka and alcohol bar for the homeless in San Francisco, and $700,000 for a skateboard park. Isn't it wonderful that the kid that's on a school lunch program and whose parents can't buy him clothes and afford their rent is going to be playing in a skateboard park that will be in disrepair within 5 years anyway? So, I mean, this is the absurdity.
Maybe that's why the state legislature decided to make breakfast and lunch free for everybody.
Yeah, because they didn't want
They got to
to.
pay the bill.
Yeah, you know why? They don't want to tell you the statistics to show
That's
you
right.
what a pathetic job they're doing. They don't
Right.
want to tell you that we got 80% of the people in this that need food. They just say give them all food and nobody will pay attention. It's just like crimes. They don't want to say there's a lot of violent crime. They reduce all the damn felonies down, and half of them they cut them into misdemeanors. So now that crime stat looks better. You know, everybody in this country is not stupid as much as they'd like them to be.
Exactly.
But hey, it is what it is. And look, people, we're getting an election coming up that could change the nation, and then the year after, come on, everybody, you want to run for council? Contact us. We'll help you. And let's get a lot of candidates, because I'll tell you what, pay attention, please. Do your homework and follow your money as it leaves your wallet and goes to the skateboard park.
Exactly. Let's have a ballot that's 2 pages long. That would be the best thing to happen. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold the idiots accountable. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Friday. Oh, by the way, today is Peace Officers Awareness Day. So give your police officers a handshake and thank them for their service. Thanks for watching. We'll see you Friday.